Hello and welcome to the special project by Ukraine Crisis Media Center, Euroatlantic Course and Analytical Center UCU dedicated to the Russia-Ukraine war, Ukraine on fire. For weeks in a row, the Ukrainian authorities have been trying to reach an agreement with the Russian aggressors to organize so-called green corridors to evacuate civilians from the hottest spots where military actions take place. Even when a verbal agreement is reached, cars with civilians are cynically fired upon the occupiers. This is one of the reasons why people are afraid to leave their cities. At the same time, those who remain at home cannot receive humanitarian aid, which is blocked by Russian troops at the entrances to the captured cities, depriving people of food, medicine, warm clothing, and hygiene items. Today's video is dedicated to the humanitarian situation in different cities of Ukraine. To avoid the atrocities committed by the Russian occupiers during the organization and implementation of humanitarian or green corridors, the international community must join monitoring this process. It was mentioned by Olga Stefanishyna, Deputy Prime Minister for European and Euroatlantic Affairs of Ukraine. She provided an exclusive video for our project. Let's listen to her important and powerful message to international community.
My dear foreign friends, I'm Olga Stefanishyna and I'm a Deputy Prime Minister for European and Euroatlantic Affairs in the Ukrainian government. As you can see, the landscape behind my back is not something that we could have seen but more than 2 weeks ago, 15 days when the war started in our territory. Last 7 days of the war has transformed to a next phase of this military aggression of Russian Federation against my country. And this terror is targeted totally to the civilian population to make us feel fear, panic, to make us feel dull and frightened. Those cities which has been captured and taken under control by Russian Federation, the citizens of these people suffer from hunger, from lack of water, women being raped, and men are being killed. Ukraine requested immediately to establish the humanitarian corridors, which would enable a voluntary evacuation of Ukrainian citizens to a safe part of Ukrainian territory, which would enable providing people in these towns with medical treatment, medicine, products, and other elements of urgent needs. We have never succeeded to ensure that the humanitarian convoy will reach Mariupol, Enerhodar, or Izium. People were shelled, people were killed, people were frightened. For Ukrainians, this is about our lives, the lives of our sons and daughters, the lives of our children. But for Russians, it's just a game to play. From the very first day, we did our best to ensure the utmost possible engagement of International Red Cross organization into the process of facilitation of bilateral dialogue on humanitarian corridors. So far, even the Red Cross convoy didn't stop Russian army from shelling and murdering. Today, we requested that the UN, ICRC, and OSCE system would ensure the task force of international monitors, which will ensure the convoy of humanitarian aid, buses and trucks, based on the agreement which will be reached with the Russian Federation on different lanes from the Kiev region, from the eastern part of Ukraine and southern part of Ukraine. We call on international organizations to ensure the unprejudiced monitoring of the situation, facilitation of dialogue with the Russian Federation, and avoiding any engagement into manipulative and absolutely blunt and inhumane propaganda and lies Russian Federation provides for. In our turn, Ukraine has all the necessary means to ensure the proper placement and of people who have been displaced from their areas of residence. We can provide, and we do provide, all the regions of Ukraine suffering from this military aggression with the necessary humanitarian assistance. More than 36,000 of tons of different types of humanitarian assistance has been provided and distributed around Ukraine. We care about the life and the needs of each and every Ukrainian citizens, and we call on international organization to force Russian Federation to stop playing the lives of Ukrainian citizens.
Except the monetary help from international partners, of course, Ukrainian people need very practical support from abroad. Maria Ionova shared with us a very comprehensive explanation of different dimensions of humanitarian aid that can be provided by our international partners.
Dear friends, it is the 17th day of war. Unfortunately, the situation is deteriorating. Even though we are still fighting very brave here. I would like to focus your attention on what we are seeing here, what our humanitarian needs. There are several dimensions of humanitarian aid. The first dimension is provision of humanitarian corridors for people who are under bombing and shelling, under siege so they could get out. And that includes real full-scale engagement of those international organizations that have mandate to provide such assistance, like International Red Cross. But unfortunately today, what they can offer only a car to lead a column of the evacuation. But this is not enough, and this is not the scale of operation that is required from such respectful organization that is to aid during the war times. Agreements of ceasefire for humanitarian corridors are being all the time broken by Russia Federation. This is where we are need assistance from international organizations, and this is one of the major things that we are asking for. If not close the sky, then protect those evacuation columns because they are being blown up. Personal vehicles of the families that are living are being blown up during evacuation. The whole families, can you imagine, with very small kids. The second dimension of humanitarian aid that we desperately need is all type of goods that are essential for people who stay without heat, without electricity, without water, and without medical supplies in the north, south, and east of Ukraine, where we can deliver. That includes also blankets, pillows, long-lasting foodstuff, hygiene products. Please do not send us masks and medical ropes and second-hand. Please, we don't need it. Some personal, also protective equipment used for COVID. We are not able to defend people against rockets by these medical ropes. And it doesn't help people survive during bombardments without heat and electricity. The third dimension of humanitarian aid that is urgently needs in all types of protective gears, from bulletproof vests to helmets, to boots, communication equipment, night vision goggles. They're needed by people who are involved in the territorial defense forces of Ukraine, but they were not equipped to fight against Russia tanks and guns. At least help us to fundraise, to buy this equipment at the reasonable price and get them to Ukraine as soon as possible. We rely on you, and we hope that you will hear us. Thank you.
Let's move to Ukrainian cities that resist Russian aggression. Serhii Orlov, the deputy mayor of Mariupol, in his comment to MSNBC channel told about how Russians don't let to implement corridors and about the humanitarian situation in the city of Mariupol. Right now, situation in Mariupol is dramatic. The eastern part of the city is occupied by Russian troops, but the city is continuing to resist. Let's listen.
We have 17 injured and injured people. It's mostly pregnant women and doctors, and 3 people unfortunately killed. One of them is a child, girl. So I don't know where they see battalion warriors, maybe pregnant women or children. It's Azov warriors. I don't know where they see this.
It's truly appalling. You said a minute ago, Mr. Deputy Mayor, that Ukrainian forces still control the city, that Russia has not taken it over completely. How much longer do you believe that can hold based on what we're seeing in the streets right now?
I'm absolutely sure that our army and National Guard will defeat the city up to the last bullet. I don't know, is it possible for many days or for weeks? It's an issue of battles, I don't know. I'm sure up to the last bullet, but you should understand that humanitarian situation decreases hour by hour, and we cannot defend our lives from airstrikes, from air bombing. They use unmanaged bombs up to 1 ton of trotyle, and they are completely destroying and flatten the city. Last official numbers of killed people in Mariupol, it was 3 days before, it was 1,207. It just killed people on the streets.
Also, Serhii sent us a message just from the bomb shelter and where he describes the current situation in the city.
My name is Serhii Orlov, Deputy Mayor of the Mariupol City Council. Today is another day of our war with Russia, and we continue our fighting for our freedom. In Mariupol, Russia uses all its weapons to destroy the city and to kill as much citizens as it possible. All the night we had awful airstrikes and bombing. At least 8 airplanes, aircraft bombs our city and destroying all the infrastructure. But the defenders of the city, Ukrainian army, National Guard, Azov, continues to defeat our city and do it as best as they can. City is still Ukrainian, city continue to defeat itself, but we are very afraid about genocide that Russia and its troops makes in our city. They do not allow to leave the city for any humanitarian reason, for any medical reason, do not allow even to bury dead people in private graves. So we start to bury people in mass grave. Today, all our efforts is to establish humanitarian corridor, and we are waiting, and we do our best to provide trucks with humanitarian help from Zaporizhzhia to Mariupol. We will do all we can to make this and to provide necessary help to our citizens. We believe in Ukrainian army. We believe in all the efforts to provide this humanitarian help.
Oleksandr Starukh, head of Zaporizhzhia Regional Administration, sent us his comments concerning evacuation of civilians and delivery of humanitarian help in different directions in Zaporizhzhia Oblast, including city of Enerhodar, where Russians occupied nuclear power station and captured its stuff.
Thanks to the coordinated work of the Kiev team, the presidential office, Kyrylo Tymoshenko, thanks to the coordinated work of the local authorities of Enerhodar, Dnipro and Vasilivka, surrounding villages, new villages joined today, which saw that women and children can be protected if sent to the regional center. And of course, thanks to our military and special services who worked extremely efficiently. Our drivers, the Red Cross, the efforts of a huge team. That's why we managed to ensure the success of this operation. In the near future, we will try to continue this work and make our way to Melitopol, Berdansk, Tokmak, Polokhy, and Kherson. We will try to break through in those areas where people urgently need goods, medicines, and other basic necessities.
Препаратів і того, що товари першої необхідності і їжа. І надалі
We will continue helping the Donetsk military administration to take measures to help get to this city, our native Mariupol, and pick up people, women, wounded, sick. Today the church also decided to help. The priests sat next to the drivers to follow to Mariupol. Unfortunately, again, as in previous times, this convoy was disrupted, but we will continue to take measures and try to make our way to Mariupol.
було зірвано. Цей конвой було зірвано. Але будемо далі все одно вживати заходи і все одно.
We have two distribution points. The first is the epicenter chain store at the entrance to the city. Thank you for providing the area the premises. There is a redirection of people. The second is in the circus, where the humanitarian headquarters are located. They decide where to send people. As a rule, these are social objects of Zaporizhzhia. After people stay here for 1 or 2 days, they are then sent to the central and western Ukraine with the help of our Ukrainian railways.
We were trying to contact our colleague in the city of Izum to figure out what kind of humanitarian situation is in Kharkiv Oblast, and we have got this kind of message. There is no mobile network, no internet. We are surrounded. Izum doesn't exist anymore. Today in the night, Yetsky village was destroyed by aviation. The way for us through Liman of Donetsk Oblast was closed. The planes are buzzing around the clock, flying straight through Borova village and back. It's very scary. The city of Mykolaiv is one of the most desirable targets for Russian occupiers, and local authority and citizens realize that probably very soon they will have to resist the attack. Russians already do heretic shellings on residential buildings and hospitals. Anna Rubanska, journalist from Mykolaiv, shared her video with us and showed the footages of the destructions that are the result of tank battles and already took place on the outskirts of the city. Let's take a look.
Mykolaiv. I'm gonna show you a place where happened the first tank battle in my city. Moment. Right there, we have a monument to a Soviet tank, the T-34, and around it we had an installation of at least 5 destroyed Russian tanks. And this is a place where it happened. Look here, it's a small trade center. It is on the first line, and this nice fashion shop Sensei is totally destroyed, mainly by the sound wave. The glasses are totally broken, and the front side. Next, there is this fashion shop was new. It was open less than a year ago, and the whole city was happy to see it here. Next, there is a kids center where I was so happy with my family. It is endangered, unfortunately, too. Look here on the stairs. Here was a fire. The shell struck here. Next, there is a well-known building materials shop, and this shop and the whole house glasses are destroyed too. Here is a place of the battle, and look on the other side, private houses destroyed by this sound wave too. And what else I'd show? These electric statements are fresh. The battle, the city government fixed it as soon as possible. The city services tried to fix it as soon as possible so that trolleys line transport could work for people as soon as possible.
Activists and volunteers in Mykolaiv are doing their job and getting ready for possible sharpening of the humanitarian situation. One of them is Kyrylo Zaitsev. Let's listen to him.
Hello, everyone. This is Kyrylo Zaitsev. I'm from Mykolaiv. This is the south of Ukraine, Mykolaiv oblast. And our city is now sieged by Russian forces, and we are now under attack. And I think I want to tell you about what's going on in our city and what we are all doing for making the situation better. So I think now the most of the citizens are trying to improve the situation in our city, and everyone is doing their best. So in the first days of the war, we volunteered, and we brought supplies for our armed forces, and also we with my family we cleaned up our bomb shelter because we have a bomb shelter in our house. This a big house, so we cleaned up this bomb shelter and made some new places for sitting and for laying there, so more people could sit in the bomb shelter while bombing, and for people to have places to rest and to have a sleep. And for now, I am working for American company, and I am not giving up working. So I think that's another front, that's economical front. I'm working to have a paycheck, to have a possibility to not like to make the economics while war is going on better. So that's the war we are going on. That's the war we are fighting, and we will win. Slava Ukraini!
Volunteers, activists, and simple citizens keep asking not only for humanitarian support, but for brave decision of foreign partners of Ukraine to close the sky. Ruslan Neroda, farmer from Mykolaiv, is sure that Ukrainian army will push Russian troops back from Ukraine on the ground if only Europe and United States protect simple citizens from the aircraft attacks and bombardments.
Try to do everything to close our sky. We don't scare that our soldiers can stop this army and even push them back to the Russian border. But what we scare is they send missiles and planes to bomb civilians and our army. This is what we don't want. So this number one question, and some help to some cities are really starving because they have lots of problems and lots of bombing, and every hour they fight there. Not in Mykolaiv. They cannot pass, they cannot even come closer to Mykolaiv. But in Kiev and Kharkov and Sumy, it's a big problem. So we try to help them first, and then back to the south of Ukraine, where we are expecting problem, but every day we just start and laughing at this army because they are not equipped really well. They look like really 18, 20 years old guys. They don't want to shoot to Ukrainians, so they run back, just they don't want to listen orders of their commanders. It's crazy what's happening here. The Russian army cannot go through the Ukraine just because their people do not want to shoot to our people. But of course, not all of them. So we're fighting. We're asking you for help, for strong sanctions, for closing our sky from missiles and from their airplanes. And this is probably what we want to do. The rest we'll do on our own. We help our army, we help our civilians, and we'll win. I'm sure we'll win.
And let's listen to one more emotional message on situation in Mykolaiv from Ihor Vaskan, activist and journalist.
Hello, my name is Ihor, and I'd like to say a few words about the situation here. This is Mykolaiv, Ukraine. It's still difficult to consider this situation as something real, to realize that the war is inside our home. At first, we were confused, shocked, and strongly upset. We didn't realize how it could be possible to bomb our cities and villages. But now, our feelings have changed. And as a lot of people around, I am full with anger. The cause of it is unprovoked and unexpected Russian invasion and killing our women, our children, and our soldiers. At once, we have become grown-ups. Everyone is responsible for our future. People should help our military forces and do their best to protect the country. And I see these things happening. I am proud for the residents of my city, for the whole Ukrainian people. We are fighting for our independence and freedom, and I am absolutely sure that we will win without no doubts.
We also have a comment on the humanitarian situation in the city of Voznesensk, Mykolaiv Oblast. Serhii Potushynskyi, journalist and volunteer, told us whether the city's residents have enough of everything they need.
The situation is controlled, and shops, magazine, markets, different organizations working, different services like police and other services try to have. As for electricity, people and services is working. Of course, here in Voznesensk has no any job. In this subject, people is stopped, and I don't know where people will get money. But today, I showed you that volunteers help and bring the vegetables and foods and for people to help. So we hope that we will have the silent days again, and we believe, we pray for Ukraine, and we protect our country.
Kryvyi Rih, the city is an almost central part of Ukraine, seems to be far away from the threat of Russian invasion, but situation there keeps staying nervous because of the chaotic shellings that Russians conduct on Ukrainian cities. We have got a comment from journalist Andriy Vlasenko, who is in the Kryvyi Rih right now.
My name is Andriy Vlasenko. I'm a journalist from Kryvyi Rih. Now I'm in Kryvyi Rih, Dnipropetrovsk region. The situation in the city is generally calm. There have not been massive shellings so far. There were few missiles on the very first day of the war and few missiles on March 10th that hit the area close to the airport outside of the city. The utilities work. There are electricity, water, heat, gas, internet, phone connection. Part of the civilians leaves the city on their own. Part of the civilians who lived close to the sites likely to be bombed were evacuated. The martial law and the curfew, of course, affected the business activities of the city. Many small enterprises, small businesses were closed in trading sector or service sector, and the situation, of course, nervous. Daily air alarms, several a day. People a little bit scared with all these things. But regardless, many people, large group of people, come together to help the army forces, to help territorial defense, many people want to do something. There are many places in the city where people weave camouflage nets or cooking meals for territorial defense or signing territorial defense. This is about men. And there are many collection points like stockpiles where people gather everything that's necessary for refugees or territorial defense or army forces, military men. So the general attitude towards war, the people united with a feel of anger, hatred for the enemy, and furthermore, the majority of people united with readiness to defend the city with arms, because Putin's regime left no any choice for Ukraine and Ukrainians. So we have our army forces, our territorial defense, our other structures who will defend the city as much as necessary. And both me and my colleagues, we joined the call to close the sky over Ukraine, to provide no-fly zone, and we believe, we have no doubt that the good surely will win over evil. Glory to Ukraine.
So, humanitarian situation is rapidly deteriorating. Faced with military defeats, losses of personnel, and vigorous resistance on the ground, the Russian troops began indiscriminate attacks of Ukrainian cities with missile strikes and heavy artillery. Documents and maps seized by Ukrainian troops from Russian prisoners of war confirm that bombardments of residential areas had been planned in advance. We keep asking our partners to close the sky over Ukraine. It will save thousands of Ukrainian lives from death and humanitarian disaster. In the description of this video, you can find the information how personally you can help Ukraine against Russian aggression. If you find our job useful, please like and share this video. Everything is gonna be Ukraine.